suggesting that aliens could or could not actually make any sense of the record?
I would say they could make sense. I mean, I'm sure Carl Sagan secretly knew something, and that was perhaps secretly in contact with aliens.
He already knew the context within which the deconvolution would have to happen?
Yeah, so there are two fundamental forms of transmission that we understand. There might be more, I don't know, and there may be forms that I'm just being stupid about. But yeah, photonic and phononic. And sound is phonograph, as you might gather from the word phone in it. And that's the purpose of the little bumps on the record, is to produce sound, and it's transmitted by, or transmitted, Latin, it's pretty obvious where that comes from, or transduce, which means drawn across. So it has to be, or led across. It has to be turned from bumps, which is a physical thing, I guess, unless they taste like something. I don't know. It all really depends. So you can assume that if they were to apprehend and then comprehend somehow, that there would be some response from them. In other words, the things that we call senses are the things that sense things. And you know, like the olfactory sense is strictly the shape of a molecule snugly fitting into a receptor in the olfactory region of the face, which I think is inside it, but not outside it. I think you'd look really funny. And if there's, I mean, here's an example of confusing phononic and photonic. They're gold, they're shiny, you could hold it up to the light.
The records.
The records, yeah, you could hold it up to the light in various ways, and they may have such sensitive haptic sense that their sense of movement is equally responsive. They can move it in a particular way that shines the light in their, we'll call them eyes, meaning thing that detects electromagnetic radiation. So that could happen, for instance. In the sequence, trying to determine where this note came from, because it's quite separated. An explanation would then struggle to locate that, and the task would be to locate that particular note. It's good theory, but it's very specific theory.
So we were talking earlier about this notion of Anaxagorean perichoresis.
Yeah, the peristasis.
This notion that the universe exists in this kind of mixed state, but that with a kind of proper algorithm it would be possible to unmix it. So what do you think aliens would do if they found a record? They had this notion that somehow they'd be able to play them?
Okay, if they found it, then I would try and work out how that record got there. Me, looking onto the situation, hypothetically. Obviously the spaceship didn't crash enough for the thing to mount. So you can make assumptions about the atmosphere, about whatever. And so this thing lands, and let's say the spaceship's out of the picture, and there's a record. I haven't really thought about this. Are you saying if we got that back somehow, or if they did something with it and we got it back somehow,
yeah.
what form would it be, and how would we interpret that? Well, it could be that when we interpreted it, it sounded the same, or mostly the same, and it was just standard noise, introduction of noise. For instance, you listen to shortwave radio stations and you hear the most wonderful, wonderful sounds. If they were among the original sounds that were used for electronic composition. I mean, they're fantastic. Or they might have done stuff with it. If you're assuming that they've done something with it, then what would have they done with it? Changed the frequency, more encoding. Like if we hear whales, we don't hear whales or dolphins. Dolphins, they're very nice things. I'm from the sea. That's why you've caught me doing this a few times. So, we pretend that we hear them. We have whale songs, and no one actually hears that. People are led to believe, oh, so they are really high pitched after all, because we can hear them singing really high. But no, obviously that's not the case. We don't hear whales. We transpose them down. So perhaps they put it in to something that's more suited to the atmosphere, the other conditions, the temperature, temperature alters things, alters the density of air, for instance, and to their aural range. Perhaps they believe it is a photonic device, and they have a way of, and they really hate light, but they have a way of shining it onto a device that turns it into sound.
You're talking about hiding things.
Yeah.
I mean, you take the sound and you hide things in it?
Well, Haydn was a composer born in 1732. That's not the Haydn you're talking about. Done 1809, I think.
Well,
so, hiding things. Okay, hiding things. On burying things beneath of them being heard or not being heard. Of them being not heard, that's pretty easy, I would say. Well, in that at least somebody knows about this very sophisticated phase cancellation. Sorry, I'm ADDing out here. Phase cancellation, so there's a beautiful design, but you don't hear it, but it's still there. Maybe if you did a little trick with it, like flipped it round or stood on your head when you listen to it, which is something they'll do anyway, it may become apparent if you frequency shift it, as opposed to pitch shift it. I'll just pretend that people know what that means, and I don't know who these people are, to be honest. Maybe the immigration service. These things, the phase cancellation will not occur correctly. Which brings up the question of intent. So earlier this year, cosmologist Stephen Hawking warned against sending messages to the cosmos because he thought that this was calling attention to a fragile Earth and worried that aliens might in fact be hostile. So are you suggesting that one way that they could announce their intentions would be to hide things within signals? I mean, I agree with Stephen Hawking completely. There's a lot of room in the space in which we hear things that we don't hear things, and that is the upper region. So, conceivably above 16,000 hertz, you can stick out of stuff. Here is an example here. That kind of pattern does not normally happen. The fact that the colours are kind of oddly placed and that there is sound representation that goes against time and with time means that it cannot be the result of computational failure or limitation of an algorithm.
But it's rather the result of
some kind of imposition. But you don't actually hear this. You see it. So
I mean, we can go back to the question of vocoding and the question of deconvolution, I suppose.
Okay.
And think about, well, we started with a search for extraterrestrial intelligence people and wondered about what kinds of signals they might be getting and how they could be rendering them into something intelligible. So is a process like deconvolution likely to be something that they would employ?
I'll just finish that. Deconvolution. With deconvolution, I'm not sure what it would consist of other than knowing what was there to start with, or at least predicting what was going to start with. God, I'm privileging it. And that would be true if people had cameras as eyes as well. Convolution is such a specific term. I could write it on the whiteboard, or I could use my hand and wave it. It looks like this. Does this make any sense whatsoever?